All right, thank you folks. We are going to bring to order the Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 Air Shirley Regional School Committee meeting to order at 6:48 p.m. Those attending tonight's meeting should be aware that the meeting is being audio and video recorded by APAC and ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chairperson, who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass Wiretap statute. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Per the ASRSD School Committee policy, public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between citizens and the school committee. It's the citizen's responsibility to express an opinion on issues of school committee business. Citizens will have 3 minutes to express their views. Any staff members addressing the committee are reminded of their obligations under state and federal student record laws with respect to maintaining the confidentiality of student record information and refraining from disclosing any personally identifying information regarding students. With that, we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Michelle, can you call the roll?
Mr. Bresnahan, Mrs. Bernard.
Here.
Mr. Quinty.
Here.
Mrs. Reisha.
Here.
Mr. Rupert.
Here.
Ms. Span.
Is Eric on the phone or no? Great. Not great, but good to know. All right. I want to do a quick thank to Mr. Phil Moore and the computer science students for the student showcase that we saw. And
Thank you.
and turn it over to Ms. Nia Florencois and Mr. Colin Holbrook for the Air Shirley Regional High School student rep session.
Before we do that, just because the student is here, we had asked Mr. Moore to help with creating a cover for the naming of the Panther statue. I don't know if you were able to see it, but the student Brian McGrean actually created it on a 3D printer. I don't know if Mr. Christie can get Brian real quick, just so that we can thank him. I don't know if you got a chance to see it on the actual statue. There are some pictures over there. Okay. It looks fantastic. It looks like it kind of was there all the time. I just wanted to take the opportunity to recognize him while he was here in front of the school.
All right. Is this Brian?
This is Brian. So
Brian. Amazing.
Yeah, it looks.
All right, so we heard that you did some community service for us on the 3D printer. Quick thank you. Anything to share in terms of the project? How'd you go about it?
And hold it up.
Just a simple engineering process. Started with a sketch, brought it into Onshape, which is a 3D printing software, uploaded it to the printer, and made it into a reality.
Okay. Amazing.
Thank you.
I'm sure you made it sound very simple. I'm sure I could not do it, so we'll say it's very complicated. But
He's being way too humble. So in addition to just designing it, what you saw over there is he took time to prototype, took time to draw it out. There was about 2 or 3 prints in between the first to the end. And then he took cameras before school, by the way, time to go out, measure the parameters, measure the plaque, measure it all out. It wasn't just a button that he pressed. He worked hard at that.
Yeah.
He deserves a lot of credit.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
I would add that Mr. Moore deserves a lot of credit too, because whenever we ask, the answer is, I think, always yes. At least I haven't heard any. So thank you very much for recruiting and getting Brian to create this for us. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
All right. Thank you. That was well timed. All right. Nia and Colin.
It's been a while since I've seen all you guys.
Yep.
I'm sure you noticed something
I was gonna say, yeah, your hair looks great.
Yeah, thanks. It wasn't just a fashion choice. I did it for hockey since we made the playoffs. Unfortunately, that came to a sad end. We lost in the first round, so now I have kind of like, but it's all right. I have a reminder on my head, but it's okay. So right now, kind of like what's going on with me is I have my first, I'm planning on taking a second one, but my SAT on this Saturday, which has been kind of like a little bit nerve-wracking. I've been like nervous. I was confused on how to prepare, but I've basically been doing a lot of Khan Academy.
Okay.
I've run through, they have an online thing you can go through, and I've done it 2 times so far, and I'm still confused on some parts, but I'm trying my best because I don't really want to have to take another one because they cost money. So I'm hoping I can do one and done. I also have my first robotics competition of the year coming up in Springfield. It's gonna be a lot of fun. That one's always really fun. There's a lot of teams there. It's also a little nervous because we haven't competed yet for robots, so this will be our first competition. Most of the teams there will have already done 2 or 3, so we'll be a little rusty, but I'm hoping we'll perform well. The student council has been working on prom for next year. We just toured and booked our venue for a Friday at the Sheridan. It was actually cheaper to do a Friday at this place than a Thursday at some of the other places we looked at, so we were happy we were able to get a Friday for a good price. I learned that food for prom costs a lot more money than I thought. I was thinking $30, $40 a person max. It was I think it was 60 to 80, somewhere like that. It was pretty insane. And that wasn't even for steak. That was for chicken.
Yeah.
That was an open bar either, so you know.
I'm not even sure if that included drinks. I think that was just the food. So it's very pricey. I'm lucky to be a part of a student council that has raised a lot of money. Our class has done good, so we're not too worried about it, but it's just looking at those prices pile up on top of each other. It's just wow, that's expensive. Besides track coming up, that's pretty much how it went. Yeah.
Alrighty. So, hi everybody. Good evening. I was about to say afternoon. It's very much evening. For me coming up, the RDA, the Racial Diversity Alliance, just forgot there. We're having a fundraiser this Friday at Anthony's Coal Fire Pizza in Littleton, just to raise funds for next year for what the seniors want to leave a lot of money for upcoming things that the club can do. So we're having a fundraiser at Anthony's where 20% of the proceeds that anybody buys food when they say that our club name. So we want to raise a lot of money for that. So if you want to come support 2 to 10 p.m. Anthony's, say Racial Diversity Alliance, you're here with them, or you can show the flyer, which is on our Instagram, and it's on the eBoard's Instagram for student council. Next I have getting ready for college. So I have my roommate, which I think I shared last time, but I have a new roommate from that roommate because I don't remember what happened to that. Now I have a new roommate, and we have a lot in common. We practically have the same birthday. Our birthdays are a day apart, and we've just been planning our dorm and picking out which housing we want, which we decided on suite style. So I'm very excited not to have to share a bathroom with a floor of girls because I don't think I can be able to do that. I've literally shared a bathroom with 2 of my sisters for my entire life, so I'm one is fine, I guess. Later this month, I'm going to Virginia to see my cousin join his fraternity, so I'm really excited about that. And it's really funny because he goes to Hampton, which is in Virginia, and that was my number 2 school, so we now have kind of a rivalry because I'm going to Howard, he's going to Hampton. There's going to be some family rivalry there. Softball season is coming up. I'm pretty excited about that. My last year, so it might be a sad one. I'm really excited for graduation, even though it's 3 months away. I couldn't be more excited to graduate. I love Air Shirley, but I'm really excited to go out and go into the world and go to college and see what more is for me. And then, as of this week, buying prom tickets, which Colin's buying
Yep.
prom ticket too.
Prom ticket too.
Yeah, I'm lucky that my prom ticket is $10 cheaper than his. Because I have a
Senior
senior.
discount.
Yes, so next year,
Yeah, okay.
hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm buying prom tickets this week, so that's exciting. Yeah.
So is this year, you were saying next year's prom, you were,
Yeah, I'm working on, like, I'm the junior class, so
Right.
we're like working on our senior prom.
and so where's the prom gonna be?
Boxborough, the Boxborough Regency.
Foxborough Regency?
Yeah.
I need to know where it was. Is it next place?
I think it's nice.
Okay, that's good.
I've never seen it before.
It's a nice place, you'll like it, it's good.
All there is is a soda bar.
Sorry, say that
There's
again?
a soda bar.
Soda bar. I thought you said open bar. I thought it was a throwback to, I was like, wait a minute. I thought that was a joke. All right.
Soda bar.
Great.
Soda bar.
Colin, were you in charge of marking number 19 for that game?
I was not. Don't
No?
worry. I was not in charge of that. I don't know how that happened. I wish we could go back in time and just cover that guy. For you that don't know, I'm pretty sure he scored 4 out of the 5 goals.
He scored all 5.
He scored all 5 goals in the playoff game we lost.
Yeah.
So if that guy didn't score, we would have won.
That's it.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Good match, great season, really.
yeah, great
That was
season
it.
up until then. So you
Yeah.
gotta just.
And you
look
put
on
some
that.
shots, that guy stood between the pipes on there, you put some shots on that guy.
Yeah.
So nobody laid down, it's just the way that rolls. Well played.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, we had pretty much the same thing in basketball, because they beat Littleton in the game they were worried about, and then they got to the playoffs and they lost to Littleton terribly, so it was like, what? What happened here? But that's sports. But you enjoyed the whole year. It's fantastic. What position do you play?
I'm a defender.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Questions, comments? Thank you so much.
All right.
This is the highlight of the night.
So we can leave now.
Yeah. And have fun at prom and softball and track.
What's the date of the prom?
May 22nd.
You gonna chaperone?
If you're interested in chaperoning, I'm happy to put it together as soon as possible. So please just let me know. You have to commit to the entire night, though, if you're hoping for dinner.
Okay. I heard it was just chicken, though, so.
There's no
So,
trust.
and no parents are allowed to chaperone, right? No parents are allowed to
We've
chaperone.
never said that, no.
No,
So,
no parents can show up,
That's Joyce's rule.
because they would put a squish on the person. So.
I do have a senior.
And definitely not people who work in the school.
Michelle, do we have anyone on the phone?
We do. Elizabeth Johnson is online. Let me turn her on.
We'll see if there's any public comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my question. I have one statement and one question. And the first thing is I think it's on everyone's radar, but not this Friday, next Friday is the Ayr Shirley Regional District art show. It is actually being put on by my daughter, who's a senior, and I wanted to give a little plug so that it ensured that everyone here knew about it and could communicate it. It's in the afternoon at the high school, and she coordinated that all the schools participate. So I'm not sure exactly how many students' works will be presented and on the walls, but all the way from the 2 elementary schools and the middle school and the high school will have art pieces by various students. I thought the goal was maybe to get every single student to participate, but I'm not sure where they ended up with that. So I just wanted to let everyone know, and hopefully some people can attend if their schedule allows.
Perfect.
And the second thing I wanted to ask about is I touched upon it last summer, but now that the new administration has come in and we've gotten some communication this week publicly about Project 2025 being underway and the elimination of the Department of Education. And I was wondering what the school's plans are, Air Shirley District's school's plans are about this concerning situation.
So, Liz, typically public comment isn't a place where we go into questions. What I would say is the school committee, superintendent, and administration obviously are working closely with the state. Obviously, we'll respond to any federal communication, but in terms of, the federal landscape is rapidly changing, rapidly evolving, and so I think we are doing our best to stay on top of, be responsive and thoughtful about how we continue to support our students and community.
The only changes as of now, it would be that Title IX has reverted to 2020 standards. Nothing else has changed. Even some of the communication about dealing with ICE agents really hasn't changed. It is still exactly for schools. Schools need to cooperate exactly the same way as they did with the prior administration, which is if there's a federal warrant, we must cooperate. Other than that, we do not share information about students. We are waiting from guidance from the Department of Ed, the State Department of Ed, and from, I personally look at the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents who stay on top of this. There is nothing out yet. And we've heard nothing about Project 2025 from either the state or from the Superintendents Association. So nothing, there's nothing to address yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving along. Is it, Michelle, anyone else?
No.
I'm assuming we don't have anyone in the room who wants to join public comment. Great. Just want to check, Joyce. Moving along to the consent agenda, we've got some minutes and warrants to review, and if there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve consent agenda, which includes February 12th, 2025 regular session minutes for release. It includes warrants number, AP warrant number 1116 for $1,804.81. It includes warrant AP warrant 117, which is $249,307. I swear I wasn't going to stumble on this. Payroll warrant number 16 dated 2/7/25 for $1,695.07, and payroll warrant dated 2/21, and I know there's one on the other page, by the way, for $1,049,379.71. And the last one is payroll warrant 7.1 dated for 2/21 for $22,459.08. And that's the complete one.
Second?
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving along, we have an update on the cell phone policy at the middle school and high school. Mr. Christie and Mr.
You guys
Orlick?
going to go odds and even on who goes first?
Yeah.
Thanks for having us here tonight. I'd actually asked both Nia and Colin to just hang tight for a few minutes. I discussed this with them this afternoon to see if their reflections on the new cell phone policy matched with mine, and it was almost identical. Can you guys share a little bit just on some of your thoughts on how the new cell phone rollout has gone at the high school?
Yeah, sure. Do you want us to stand up, or is this fine for you?
If you're comfortable there, you can sit.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So I know personally for me, I haven't seen like a lot of like change during, like, I know one thing people were saying is people were going to be looking at their phones during their lunch. For me, I mean, I haven't seen that really. And I think in class, I definitely haven't seen anybody on their phone because it's got to be in the pocket. And I feel like I've seen like probably more class participation, but definitely less people just like getting distracted. So.
For me, I've just like with myself, I've been seeing myself like be more on task with my schoolwork and like taking the time, like if I have an opportunity to do my homework in school, I can do my homework in school and not like go on my phone and stuff like that. So it's just like seeing an opportunity to like get my work done, like even my grades going up has been a good thing about not having my phone.
Yeah, to ditto their sentiments. When we walk into classrooms, we're not seeing students on the phone. The students' phones are expected to be in pouches on the side of the room. It's how teachers now take attendance and do roll call. So if they're seeing a phone missing from a pouch, it's a pretty easy way to question a student as to A, whether they're there, or B, whether they've put it in. And so one of the things I knew that you guys mentioned is just a gentle reminder every now and then is helpful, especially coming back from breaks. I think there can be a little bit of an attempt at times to maybe hold the phone for a little longer than possible. But in classrooms, participation has gone up, which has been nice. From talking to teachers, they're hearing a wider array of voices in the room than they had previously heard. And I think they're very happy with how it's going so far.
Yeah, I would say the middle school is very similar. I think that we fell into the routine pretty quickly. I'd say the first week or so, there was some testing the waters as far as whether or not we needed to follow the policy, and some excuses. But then within that first week, by the end of the week, students were all kind of settled into that routine. Teachers are all expecting students to do it. And I would say as far as impact, I don't think we had too much of an issue prior as far as students using their phones during class. But we had a lot of students, I would say, going to the bathroom or going to the locker and using the phones when they were there. So we've seen an increase in instructional time for those students. So that's definitely been beneficial. And I'd say it seems like parents and students are kind of happy with the policy, and obviously it's beneficial to students and participation in class. So that's been great.
Yep.
So go ahead, Joyce.
Have you heard anything from parents?
I haven't heard a comment from parents in over a month.
No,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, initially I'd say there was some parents that were whose kids kept their phones in their backpack or in their locker that didn't really understand why they needed to put it in the pouch. So there was some kind of clarifying about the policy initially. But then I think once we've fallen into that as the routine, we're not hearing any other issues with it. So I think it was just a clarification for kids that we're not having an issue with cell phones, understanding why we're using this policy, and some education, address that. And I really haven't heard anything about it in weeks at this point.
I received some emails and calls before we implemented, many before we implemented. The first week, maybe 5 to 10, but some individual phone calls. I think most people fell on board. I think there might have been one parent who was still very much against it. But besides that, since the first week or so, I haven't received any notifications from anyone about the policy.
What percentage of the student body do you think doesn't even bring their phone to school though?
Probably 10 to 15%.
That's what I was thinking, 10, yeah. 10 to 15 is probably pretty accurate.
We have some students that will leave it out in their car.
Right.
Just feeling more comfortable having it away.
Right.
Safer.
Yeah.
The middle school level, of course, we have some students too that just the parents and the family decide not to have a cell phone yet, and so they just don't have one.
Right.
One of the things that we were interested in, or one of the reasons we were interested in this policy, was thinking about referrals. And so I'm curious if we have seen a decrease in sort of referrals to the office as a result of the policy, right? Our kids being better citizens with electronic devices because of this.
It's a challenging question to answer, in part because I still think when students have their phones after school, and it bleeds into our school time. So do we still have challenges with social media and our etiquette on it? Absolutely. We're going to continue to address that. What's nice is it's not happening during the school day anymore. So that certainly is something nice, and I know it eases the minds of our teachers to not worry about kind of the responsibility falling on them. As far as referrals overall, I think it's kept pretty steady.
Okay.
But it's changed in nature on what it had been to what it is now.
Yeah.
I will say we've had, besides Dr. Meyer, who's now back at work, we've been really fortunate to have 2 interim APs step up this year, those being Mr. Giusto and Ms. Rocco. And they've really done a fantastic job of working with students and teachers to allay any concerns that are happening within a classroom. So while our numbers might look higher, I think that the knowledge that anything is being acted upon immediately has really helped bring down the temperature overall. But it won't necessarily show up statistically.
Yeah.
At the middle school, I'd say we had a decrease in number of like phones we've had to like take away from students. So like a lot, with policy that goes down to the office, we haven't had to do that nearly as much.
Yeah.
With the new policy change, I would agree with Spencer as far as like the issues on social media that happen after school, those still exist. So like, that I would say as far as like referrals for those things, those still pop up. But again, not having those things happen during the school day is definitely beneficial to instruction and like learning.
Yeah. Colin touched on this a little bit. The other thing that, we went back and forth a little bit about this idea of, do you collect the phone for the day versus do you collect it for the class? And obviously collecting it for the day created a whole bunch of operational challenges that we weren't ready for. But we did debate about the idea of like, do students need it for those 3 minutes between class? Do they need it at lunch? And I'm curious, again, Colin, you're like, I don't see kids just like heads down zombies during lunchtime. I know this is anecdotal, but I'm curious like how you're seeing students engage with technology outside of the actual classroom. Does it seem like, yep, they're coming out, they're turning it on, they're turning it off, or is it like, no, it's kind of a off and away now, in between, like in those transitions?
I think in between classes, students are still checking texts, making sure that they're kind of up to date on their social media. But I think the real concern we had was, would lunchtime just turn into a zombie fest?
Yeah.
Were we going to have just students glued into their phones during that time period? That was a real concern for us. And I think Colin articulated it well. That's not what we're seeing. We are seeing high amounts of student engagement. I know as you go from table to table, students may be pulling up a video to show each other during lunch, but it's far more friend groups interacting, I think, in ways you would see on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Just typical student engagement.
At the middle school, our expectation was always that it was like off and away, so they don't use it during lunches or in the hallway. That was like already the expectation.
Yeah.
Right. There was some concern about now that they had to have the phone with them to bring it to class to put it in the pouch, that we might see an increase in like use of it in those like transition points or like less structured times. But I wouldn't say we've had any kind of increase in that at all. So that hasn't been an issue. They have the phone with them is the only difference, but we haven't really seen a significant change.
Do our student reps think there would be any advantage at all to eventually morph into a system where it's like, it's just going to be away for the day?
I don't know. I feel like, I know I personally have had like times where like it's been like nice to be able to have it like at lunch, because like my mom has sent me like texts. I've gotten like work like emails, like I've had to cover for someone's like shift like right after school. I don't think I would have been able to like respond to that. So I feel like there are just like some scenarios where it's like it's nice to be able to like check, especially like text messages from my parents, like to just see like what's going on, like if I have anything that comes up after school. So I feel like it's nice to have at least like some point in the day where we can access it. Like maybe not necessarily, I could see it like between like halls maybe going away, but I feel like having just like any point to where we can check it is nice.
Good.
Yeah, I agree with Colin. Just like being able to check like when your parents text you and stuff like that would be a time for that would be good.
Mr. Diffin and I had actually toured a school in the fall as part of a NEASC visit that we're using pouches and had away for a day. I frankly thought there was more subterfuge with ways in which students were attempting to get around the policy there, rather than here. Everything's out in the open, so it becomes more transparent with what we're trying to do. And frankly, I think giving students a little bit of responsibility with their phones between classes and at lunch is helpful. It gives them that touch of real-world responsibility, where if you need to check a text from either your parent or from a workplace, it does give them the limited opportunity to do that.
Yeah, in middle school, I think the policy really hasn't changed. It wasn't a major shift for us, honestly. It was really, I even said to the kids, like, it's just a difference in like what pocket it's in. It's in a pocket on the wall versus a pocket, on your pants. It's not a huge difference. And our kids really don't access them throughout the day. So, and I think that's probably good for middle schoolers.
Yeah.
They're a little bit easier to get distracted and get off task. So, we kept it that way, and honestly, that hasn't been an issue since we enacted the new policy. So, really no change.
Oh, Joyce.
There's no way to test this, but it's kind of interesting because if you think that you have a habit of doing something that maybe is not the best thing for you, I could think of smoking, and then you can't smoke here and you can't smoke here and you can't smoke here. I had this experience. I couldn't smoke in the lab, I couldn't smoke in the research area, I couldn't smoke here, and then suddenly you just stopped looking for cigarettes. Where it was like everybody's smoking. But, so you never find out. But like, oh, well, I didn't use it in school today, so I didn't spend all night on it.
I know students can track the number of times they pop their phone on. There's a way to just track number of actual watches. Anecdotally, I'd say that's gone down drastically during the day. So I'd be curious as well.
Curious to see if it would carry on.
Does it track beyond the day?
Yeah, beyond the day.
Yeah.
So is every kid on the bus got his cell phone open or not? Right?
I'll speak anecdotally for at least one 7th grader. I think the cell phone use outside of school hours is about the same, even though they aren't using it. But it's early goings, who knows? I'm curious, again, we appreciate the fact that you took on this policy mid-year. Any change in policy mid-year is hard. I mean, and these sorts of rollouts are going to be difficult anyway. And so appreciate the leadership that you all showed in the implementation. As you look to next year, are there, and again, reserve the right to change your mind as the spring goes on, but any changes that you would want to see? Are there, is it like, no, we've got it, this is working, this is what we want? Or, is it like, what, we would love to see this tweak or this shift? Or are you generally happy with the way that we're managing cell phones in Air Shirley?
I think, I was speaking for the middle school, like we have the organizers that they're using. I think we could probably be more consistent about like how we're assigning the number, logistical things, like how the numbers are assigned to kids, just to make it easier for them. Yeah. Because different classes are using like different systems for that, and that can be a little confusing. So I think just like adjustments like that, just to make it a little bit more streamlined for them and a little easier. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
I've been impressed with the way it's been rolled out at the high school. There was a set structure, but even within that, teachers allowing students to choose numbers or giving students consistent numbers within classes, I think has been helpful. So I've been really impressed by the high school teachers' willingness to take this on and to own it. And there are teachers that are just fantastic with this system. So watching some of their leadership skills come out, this is something that they've wanted for a while. Yeah. And they want this to succeed. So really seeing them step up and own this policy has been fantastic.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, Ashley?
Just one question, and do you think there would be a way to kind of share all the benefits that you're speaking of? Because I think between Nia and Colin and both of you, I love to hear that you're more engaged, that you're less distracted. I think even as adults, it's really easy to start like doom scrolling on your phone when you should be doing a task. And I find myself do it, we're all kind of like have that issue. So how do you guys think you could express that maybe as like an update to the parents and maybe kind of win over the parents who aren't as convinced? I know there's updates planned kind of in the policy rollout, but I would love to see a way to kind of share that, maybe have some students and teachers share the benefits they're seeing, because I really think, I'm just super happy to hear that. I think it's great that you guys are acknowledging that and you're seeing it in yourselves, because then you can take that with you to college, and everything. So.
Yeah, I will collect the benefits that they're seeing, and actually we should probably get some information though your insights were great for more than just 2 students. And we'll send it out district-wide to everybody, including the elementary school, because 5th graders are going to be exposed to this policy next year too. So
For sure,
yeah, we can absolutely do that.
I just think, and I think everyone deserves the credit, right? Like Chris was just saying, rolling this out in the middle of the year and how much effort it took for the teachers and everyone. I would love to see credit, where credit's due. So
It's your turn to do a victory lap. So
I truly think that Dr. Renda and Mr. Caleri did a really nice job of helping to guide us with how to make this successful. And Dr. Renda showed up at the high school, I know several times, to have conversations directly with parents who were concerned. I think the rollout helped. So when people were seeing that it wasn't disastrous and that the sky wasn't falling, that helped. And so I think a lot of the concerns went away. But again, I truly think this starts at the top, and so where we look to Dr. Renda, and frankly, a well-written policy coming from you guys, truly helped to make this work.
Take credit for it.
what's that?
Take credit for it.
I think ChatGPT and Adam did most of the work, so I don't know that we can take much credit, Joyce.
No, I'm giving it to you.
Awesome. Anything else? Otherwise, we've got folks who've had very long days who probably want to hit the road.
Yeah, that's what I have.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along to our next item on the agenda, we have a, what are we calling this? Are we calling this a 4th read, maybe final read, of draft policy FF, naming of new facilities. You can see Erica has attached our materials document that has the current policy, the draft policy with the revisions from our last meeting. Those are included in blue. You can also see where there's strike-throughs. Would welcome folks, if you need a minute, certainly go through, but otherwise would welcome any questions, discussions prior to a vote if we're ready.
I think we should just put it off for another week, really.
I mean,
We don't have a meeting next week.
Everything on here is fine. The only thing that didn't make the cut, and I don't know if I don't even know if we decided or not decided.
Yep.
But at the end, the last paragraph, I recommended just getting rid of it because I actually put 2 things out. One, we could get rid of it because most of the naming requests come from somebody recommended. Somebody comes to the superintendent or the chair of the school committee. That's how it typically happens. I mean, if we build a new school and stuff, then that's a whole new set of wheels. But normally, that's how it happens. I just don't want to get this confused because if the way that it reads now, somebody would come, they talk to you, they talk to him, they come to the school committee meeting, and then according to this, we'd say, anybody else got any other ideas? And I'm like, I don't really want to get into that competition part of it. So I think we could just go with everything except the last paragraph, or alternately, what I recommended last time was that we put naming suggested procedure to give you some out.
yeah. And Jim, I was trying to track in the document, which paragraph?
The last. Right now it's titled naming suggestion procedure. It's the very last paragraph.
Am I missing it?
Right there,
Right there.
that last one.
Oh, this
Just-
literally, sorry, I was looking. Oh, these 4 bullet, or the 4 numbers.
Yeah, 'cause we cover basically everything on the paragraphs before that.
Yeah.
Bullets 1 through 5 are titled procedure, request for naming ASRSD facility, and I think it pretty much covers everything. And then this just adds extra things that you could do. So I prefer to just biff it, or alternately just call it naming suggested procedure, and that would give the school committee at the time the possibility of using it or not using it.
Other comments or thoughts on the naming suggestion procedure? Keep, cut, indifferent.
I'm kind of indifferent. I can see both sides. I
It could, yeah.
defer to someone else.
It could kind of be incorporated into the whole thing. And there's some really decent things in there that it specifies that the superintendent will publicize it, so that it doesn't just like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. And that's in there in number 2, which shouldn't be left out. So it is a little redundant in a couple of places, but it also has the announcement of intending to name a facility, which invites people to come forward. This is listed as naming new facilities, and yet it doesn't really approach what we did naming the middle school, which was having people submit a number of, I think I can remember this, a number of names and suggestions and reasons for those suggestions. And then it went to a public vote, not the choice of the school committee.
And I think,
And that's how it was done.
Excuse me.
Jim?
Yeah, and in that case, and when you're building a new facility, I mean, then the school committee makes its rules for how it's going to deal with it. I'm sure when we did that, there was no policy that said, this is how you do it.
Right.
The committee and the building committee and the select, everybody get together and said, this is how I think we should do it. And I think that's probably the best way, because nobody can tell what's going to happen in the future, what the landscape will look like. And who's ever sitting in the seat at that time can decide how much community involvement they really want to take for what they're trying to accomplish. Plus, the way we've identified facility, it basically includes everything. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you might have a tree,
Ping pong
Melvin
table.
Longley Nature Corner, I mean, all that sort of stuff. And I just don't want to lock anybody into any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You could always do it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But this kind of says, this is what you have to do. It says, this is the procedure you have to follow. And I think in a lot of cases, you don't really need to follow that. There may be cases where you really want to, but you could decide that on the fly afterwards.
I'd love to not see this on the agenda next time. And so for the, so I'm curious if there's a preference among the group. Again, we can cut that section. We could also change the heading on it and vote on it where it would read suggested naming procedure. And acknowledge that in cases where we are soliciting names or thinking about naming something, hey, we've got a great new name, the idea that you open it up and you sort of get input, again, not a bad idea. There are certainly going to be some contexts where that does not make sense. And so I'm curious if there's an opinion about changing the naming of, or changing the section, I'm going to try not to say name, changing the heading for that section versus eliminating it.
If I read this correctly, and I could have it totally mashugana, but this looks like this occurs basically over 3 meetings.
At
Announce
least.
the intent at a regular meeting. The superintendent will receive news inviting the community. At a following regular, he will present the list of suggested names, and then at the second regular meeting, following the initial announcement. So it's 2.
Yeah, it's 2 meetings, and I mean,
reading that it was going to be a 3rd one after
yeah,
the superintendent.
and yeah, I mean, one thing that I do think is, in the case of naming a new school, let's imagine we build a new elementary school and we don't want to call it Page Hilltop. I don't know, maybe no one should take that we want to rename it. For everyone watching, we're not renaming any schools. But again, the idea of announcing we're going to have a new school, we are going to plan to name it, and acknowledging that publicly in some way feels important. And the likelihood that in a 2-week turnaround for something like naming a school, we will have the final list of suggestions is probably not likely. Although maybe that would be preferred if we said the policies we need to have all names in by 2 weeks. I also can imagine there's some context, again, where we wouldn't want to open it up. I think about the like Jan Bresnahan track, right? Like that's the name where it was like, I don't know that we would have wanted to solicit input. Maybe we would have.
Well,
I
it
don't
was an
know.
item that was already named, so the track was already.
No, it wasn't. It didn't have a name. It
didn't
was,
have a name.
yeah. Yeah, there was a request to the school committee to name it. There was rationale presented, and then we voted on it.
Right.
I would say we change it to suggested naming procedure so that it's there, it's a guideline should we want to use it in the future. But like Jim said, we don't have to use it because that's not going to apply to some things.
Yeah, suggested naming procedure is a good thing to leave in there for guidance.
I make a motion that we change the title of the last paragraph to suggested naming procedure.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I make a motion that we accept draft policy FF naming facilities as presented and amended tonight.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Is Erica voting?
She is not. All right. Moving along to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. We have had 2 snow days, which brings the last day of school to Wednesday, June 18th. I don't want to hear it clearly. Which will be a half day for students. So as you can tell, not everyone has agreed with the 2 snow days that I have called this year. Worst part of the job.
I can usually keep a straight face. I just couldn't.
Yeah, but the pressure's on for the next one, because that moves you to the 20th.
Yeah, well,
Guess how many people will be here the 20th?
I will say this, if it means making sure everyone is safe or being ridiculed by some of my colleagues, I will be ridiculed by my colleagues. That's
Ridiculed
fine.
is strong.
It is strong, it is strong. It's fun, it's fun. But Wednesday, June 18th, and I can't wait, Charlie will be a superintendent probably relatively in the near future. I can't wait to call him at 4 o'clock in the morning
And then you can
and
call
say,
him up.
ha, see? It's not that easy. We have finished the regional school district budgeting presentation for Massachusetts. It's School Budgeting 101. Mr. Plunkett and I had a lot of help from Mr. Hemming from Mars. We had originally were hoping that he would come and actually not only help us with the presentation, but execute the presentation for us. He really isn't interested in that part, so that will be Bill and I doing that. For those of you who have this digitally, you can click on that link and you can check out the budget, the presentation. We are going to add a couple of slides to really just personalize this for Air Shirley, but the way that it is created right now, this is really a presentation that any regional school district in Massachusetts could get.
Adam, just a note, that link, I don't know if you have the ability to share. We don't have access to it.
I do. I will
okay.
open it up
Yeah,
in
it's no
just
rush,
a moment.
but,
Yeah, sorry about that. My apologies.
So is that Wednesday before the school committee?
It will be before the school committee. We will, I don't know yet whether or not we're going to use the middle school auditorium or or the cafeteria, probably the auditorium. And we will send personalized invitations to the select boards and the FinComs and parents if they would like to come.
Good.
Yeah. And I have a sports update. It was submitted by Mr. Kendall. Unfortunately, Mr. Kendall is not here to read it, but I will do my best. Athletics is currently in between seasons as spring sports will start up on March 17th. Registration is open. The boys basketball team wrapped up a great season, finishing 20-3 after a playoff loss to Littleton last week. Seniors Tommy Burgeon, Zach Iacone both hit the 1,000 career point mark this season. It's incredible. Girls hockey wrapped up its season, reaching the round of 16 before losing to the #1 seed, Westwood. Senior Carly Iwa was one of the top players for the Blue Devils. We co-op with Leominster for girls hockey. 5 Air Shirley swimmers competed at states and did well. Congratulations to Gracie Hans, Sophie Andrade, Kiera Fallon. I want to make sure I say that name right.
I'll say Niam.
Niam Fallon, Elena Latham. Elena finished second in both the 100 and 500 freestyle. Thank you. Cole New finished second in the state and 5th in New England in the 400 indoor track. You can compete at the New Balance Nationals next Friday in Boston. And a big thank you to Ashley Gustafson for navigating through quicksand, for working on team culture, positivity, and body language with our basketball and cheerleading teams. She'll be running some mental and physical fitness workshops this summer. Registrations for that are now open. And we have some new college acceptances. Endicott College, Gordon College, Mass College of Liberal Arts, Muhlenberg College, Pace University, St. Michael's College, Stonehill College, UConn, and University of South Carolina. And that is all for the superintendent's report.
All right. Yeah, Joyce.
So that, the final nationals, that's at the Reggie Lewis Center in Boston, right?
I believe it is. Yes.
Great place to go.
All right. Moving along, certification of the FY26 budget. Assuming you're going to present before I read in, right?
I'm not going to present
Okay.
the whole,
Great.
do the whole slideshow because there's only one change since
Great.
the preliminary budget. And I'll put the slides up on the screen now.
And
So
it's a good change.
FY26 budget drivers and projections is where our only change is. The first row in the budget driver section in the middle is health insurance for employees. We had been told to budget 10% to 20% for health insurance increase this year. We budgeted 14.8% and the rates came in at 12%. So that freed up $117,000 for us. And we did tell the FinCom and Board of Selectmen that if there was any wiggle room there, we would use that to lower the budget. So we took $67,000 of it for personnel, and $50,000 went through to lower the assessment for the towns. So this is the only change for the drivers, and then the percentages on the last slide have changed as well. These are the totals. These are all been reduced by 50,000. Each of these subtotals are all reduced by 50,000, except for the revenue. And we have a new bottom line of $37,422,761, a 1.3% increase over the prior year. Oops. And going into the percentages, this was about 0.2% for each of these percentages here. So we have the total operating budget is 4.4%, 5.4 to air and 2.7 to Shirley. Prior that was 4.6 overall, 5.7 to air and 2.9 to Shirley. So those have all been reduced about 0.2%, coming down to the operating budget and debt. We have a 5% overall increase, 6.5 to air, which was 6.7, and then 2.7 to Shirley, and that was 3.0 on the prior preliminary budget. So that's the only change we have on the budget. And we would look to have a vote from the board for the whole amount of the total of all funds of $37,422,761.
I assume we're just going to give Michelle a giant bonus. But you're going to make that decision. That's with you. I'm kidding,
Don't
Joyce.
even say it.
I know.
You wanna get us in trouble?
I know. I'm sorry.
Well, Bill had mentioned that we used 67,000 of that adjustment for personnel. And just to clarify that a little bit more, we have been very transparent about moving positions from school choice and grants into the general fund. And that's exactly what we did. That allowed us essentially to move just about a full position over.
Nothing personal, Michelle, sorry.
So we're very happy. I don't know if I believe that the towns aren't upset with this at all. At least that's the feeling we get after presenting to the select boards. But we're very happy at the number of positions that this year that we have been able to move out of school choice and grants into the general fund.
How many roughly?
I believe it's 5.
5.
Might be, and we were thinking at the beginning of this year, if we could get 2, we would have been thrilled.
Yeah.
We were able to move 5 over.
It is amazing work, and having spent this weekend at a birthday party with several Ashby families, it was, I mean, again, it is a testament to the sort of fiscal management that and leadership that you've had, Bill. It's been great. That said, I'm going to do my best. Please check me on all the procedures here. Having convened in an open meeting on March 4th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing. Wait, this is what I'm doing this? Not this.
No, this is, this is
Never
a
mind.
simple motion.
Now it's a simple motion. Great. Go ahead, Joyce.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve final approval for FY 2026 proposed budget for the ASRSD school budget, not committee, school budget, on March 4th, 2025.
Second?
All those in favor?
Do I need more than that?
You need the number. Need the
Oh,
number.
you want the amount? I'm going to read the whole
37,
thing?
yeah.
What page?
You need the number.
I wrote it at the bottom.
Oh, you're so good. I get saved by all my friends. For the amount of $37,422,761. Oh.
No sense.
No sense. I have no sense.
Second?
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right. As a point of clarity, when are we getting to this? Because I see grants and the school year calendar, but I'm not quite sure when.
Not reasonably anticipated.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Later.
I was like, all right, budget stuff. I read the complicated thing. All right, moving along to acceptance of the grants for school year 24-25. Dr. Renda.
Thank you. So Jay Mooney and most members of central office and a lot of the school administration have been working incredibly hard at finding and securing grants, and we have 5 additional that we would ask the school committee to vote to accept. The first is a hate crimes prevention grant for $50,000. These funds are used to support the Equity Imperative. That is a group that is doing the professional development modules and training for administration to work on some of our equity work that was identified during the equity audit. Also the peer mentoring program and our work with the Lynch Leadership Academy. We also have a SEL behavioral health grant for $100,000. These funds are used to support the STEP program at the high school. It's the salary, the peer mentoring advisory program, the SEL curriculum development, and safety care training. Also the emergency homeless support for extraordinary needs for $106,583. These funds will be used. We've actually purchased a van for this, also a position of shelter liaison, and some school furniture. The majority of those funds are for the school van. Do you know if we have an arrival date on that?
It was supposed to be here this week.
Oh, okay. It's not here yet, though.
They were gonna drive it up
They're
from
driving it up.
Providence. I think the end of last week.
Okay.
Oh, it's being lettered.
Okay.
That's what they had to do. They had to letter it. Put the Shirley Regional School District on it.
We have an IEP improvement grant for $10,000. These funds were used to support the new IEP process. It provided some parent workshops and general educator trainings. And also a MIA grant, for a wellness grant for $9,298, and these funds were used to support a teacher's room improvements. Any questions?
Joyce.
So, if you don't mind, just roughly, I don't need to. So, the van, because I think this is going to come up more and more, can you break down what the cost, the major cost there is the van?
Mm-hmm. The van was
Yeah, that was
$90,000.
Yeah, that's what I was just curious.
Yeah, that's up about $20,000 from the almost identical van we bought 3 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
only 25.
And this, to make the grant, this was a grant only for communities that have a migrant shelter in them. And when we worked with DESI writing this grant, we made that more attractive by 12%, 15%? We
Kicking in
matched
15%, yeah.
15%. But then we have a van that we will use to help transport students and families from that shelter to different school activities. But it can also be used for any of our needs. So this was a huge
But the
win. I think you've heard.
Priority on that vehicle would be for the first purchase, and
Yeah,
had to be-
absolutely.
Somebody's got
Yep.
to shuffle ball change.
Yep.
So are all these grants coming from the state?
No.
And which one of these are going to be federal?
Most of them probably have their roots with some federal funding, but none of these would be considered
A
pure
federal
federal grants.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion about the 5 attached grants? All right. I'd entertain a motion to accept the 5 grants as presented.
I would make a motion to accept the grants as listed.
Any other discussion? Otherwise, a second.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving along to the school calendar. I think this is also Dr. Renda.
Mr. Cleary is going to talk about the calendar.
So you have a copy of the draft calendar for 25-26. So special thanks to Michelle for working with me on this. She's the power behind this. I just kind of go through and make it all messy, and then she makes some more of the changes. So this is a draft to kind of show really what we're looking for is like start date and end date, and we're trying to figure out some of the specifics. So we pretty much roll over the calendar from the previous year, and then we try to shuffle some things around to make it flow a little bit more evenly. The change in the winter break is noticeable on here in terms of where the Christmas holiday falls, and New Year's Day, so that changes the vacation time. So that you'll notice on here. In addition, we have early release days that are shown on this calendar, and right now we're collecting feedback from principals. That started earlier this week, just to kind of get a sense of where these days should fall more appropriately or not, to create a little bit more flow in the school, because sometimes these days tend to be like interrupting the flow of instruction. So we want to make sure that we continue with making it work a little bit more consistently. Beyond that, it's a draft at this point, so we wanted to at least get it out there so people are asking questions about when is school going to start, when is school going to end, where's winter break, because folks are trying to plan for things as they go into the next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ashley.
Just one question, and forgive me, I know we talked about this at length last year, but now I can't remember where we left it. We discussed that Friday after the first day of school, like going into Labor Day weekend. I thought that we had agreed, talking with ASRIA, that as long as we gave advance notice, we could make the transition to eliminate that. Is my memory not serving me, or?
I think that's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think the concern was not having enough notice, but I thought that we had said, okay, we'll keep it this year, and then next year we'll change it. So I don't know if that was still
Well, we do have that as a non-school day.
Okay.
But we can absolutely change that. Again, this is a full draft, and we want input from the school committee for this to make the changes before you vote on it.
And just to read this right, does that mean the last day of school is June 18th?
Mm-hmm.
The last day.
If that change is made, yes.
That changes? Right.
Yeah, okay.
So some of these half-days are for, our 90-minute release, are for conferences and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So how many of those are for professional development?
I think we have 8, 2, 3, 4,
I tried to count them, I couldn't find.
5. Sorry, 10. There's roughly one every month. On the months that we have lots of, so look at November as an example. There's a full day professional day on November 4th. There's Veterans Day on the 11th, and there are 2 sets of conference days, so there's not an early release day for professional development during that month because November already has a full day professional day.
So the ones that are circled in blue, I'm trying to read
Those
the
are-
code here. Those are
The blue are
professional
full
development
day.
day, half days?
Full days. The ones that are circled in blue, those are late starts for preschool.
Sorry, I didn't figure out all
It's
the
flipped
code.
because what ends up happening is for a preschool, we have AM and PM preschool sessions. And so the first half of
In addition
the,
to being a half day, it's no preschool.
Preschool.
Well,
late start.
if we didn't have a late start, it would always be the PM preschool classes that wouldn't happen. So for the preschool, we have some late start so that it evens out between the AM and PM who wouldn't have a session that day.
And do we have any feedback from parents about the difficulty of half days and working their work schedules and stuff?
I haven't received any.
I was just curious.
I haven't
It used to be
received
a
any.
real
Yeah.
contentious.
We may have.
Item.
I mean, first year we started doing them, but I don't.
Go on Facebook in November, you'll see it. But I mean, there's 11 school days in the month of November with full school days. You know, that's when you start to hear it, but I don't know that it ever really bubbles up outside of the I'm taking another vacation day to cover.
It's not as challenging as snow days.
Sure, yeah.
because you can plan ahead. Yeah.
I know there's millennia of precedent for February and April vacations, but in your experience, has there ever been any discussion about abbreviating those or combining into one March? I mean, because you know what it is teaching the last 2 weeks in June, right? That's like insane. It's crazy. And those, you survive all the way from September to December with just like a 4-day Thanksgiving break, and everybody rolls through that without any problem. You know, so either taking those existing weeks and you know what, let's have a 2-day vacation here and a 3-day vacation in April, or let's just do one in March. That would really help everybody out at the end of the year. Has there ever been any discussion about that?
I think I don't know the answer to that question if it's been discussed. There's certainly been a lot of local conversation. Different districts have conversations about this. I think part of the challenge is combining those days creates I guess a challenge for the folks who are working in districts. So imagine a lot of folks who are working in a school district, they have vacation in March, but their kids have vacation in February and April. And then so inevitably this is one of those things, much like cell phone policies. Much better to say, okay, this is when vacation time is going to be for public schools across Massachusetts. It's going to be in March. And then it's done. But I feel like it gets a little bit more complicated as soon as you start trying to move days around or entire weeks around for vacation.
I think it's
That's been my
impossible to do at a
experience.
local level. This would have to take your group to get together going can we just talk about this? Just us, can we just maybe broach this subject, because it's going to be getting warmer in June as years tick by. And I think everybody would probably survive it okay, but it can only happen across the board. There's no way to do this locally, because the athletic schedule, all that stuff just is not going to work.
That's where I was going to go next, is the athletic schedule.
Right.
This is very similar to changing the start time, the high school start time.
Right.
And we know that locally, school districts that have done that have replaced some personnel shortly after, because it wasn't very popular. I haven't done any of this work since I've started in Air Shirley. We did some parent info sessions about making some changes in my prior district, and the parents were the biggest obstacle about changing that. Partly because of what Mr. Caleri had added, and then for some is the planned vacations. Like that is some time where people plan to go away every year. I don't know if that would be the obstacle here, but this isn't a topic, at least not that I can remember, that has come up at MASS. It might be something to bring up at the joint conference, though, in November. Because if there was a critical number of school committees who wanted to do this, I could see that change happening that way, too.
Right.
I would love a March spring break. That'd be great.
That's the month I need it. Joyce?
That's about to need it. You're going to vote yes, right?
If Charlie had brought a calendar that said we want a March break and get rid of February, I would have, without a question, voted for it today.
It's good to know for next year.
I hate to admit that I've done this so long, that was put in all before you were born, and it was to save money on fuel. There was no other reason. We went straight through January, February, March, and somebody decided that they needed to close the schools so they could save money on heating. So it's not like, and then people say, oh, we could go skiing. In the other districts that I am very involved in, they all go skiing and spend a lot of money. So the ski places would hate if you closed off February vacation.
So I think we should take a look at for next year, because we spend all our time making fun of those absolutely ridiculous requests for that conference. We may as well just sit in the seat where they do in the dunk booth ourselves, put something together and see if it has any traction, right?
Do you want to take a step of drafting that, Jim?
I could do that.
All right. I would entertain that draft. I would love to see that presented.
That'd be an interesting change. Yeah.
We've never put out a. We've never put out one, so let's do one now. Why not?
It would probably make the news. That would, of the things for our district to make the news for, I think that is not so bad.
Just to break the streak for the other stuff.
Yeah.
That would be okay.
Other questions or discussion about the calendar?
That's it.
Well, it's draft, so it's going to come back, right?
It will come back.
Yep. We will
Yeah, we'll
have,
come back around.
We'll have the calendar on every agenda from now until it's finalized.
Cows come home.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
I have no notes. We have a topic that was not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting.
We did. So my apologies. I was a little hasty with asking you to vote to approve the submittal of the statement of interest. As Jay Mooney and I have gotten back into completing the current statement of interest, we reminded ourselves that there is some exact language for the approval that is needed by MSBA. Mr. Chair, you have that language, so we would ask that you read that language and that the school committee revote.
Great.
To approve that.
All right, so having convened in an open meeting on March 4th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of Air Shirley Regional School District, in accordance with its charters, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Mass School Building Authority the Statement of Interest form dated April 10th, 2025 for the Page Hilltop Elementary School located at 115 Washington Street, Air, Massachusetts, 01432, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which the application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. Our current academic and social emotional program delivery and efficiency are badly constrained by obsolete facility issues, and hereby further specifically acknowledge that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of the application. The awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority or commits the Air Shirley Regional School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. With that read in, I believe I need a move to a vote and a second.
Do we have a title on that so we can just? Move to vote.
Move to vote
Make a
the
motion for
Statement of interest.
statement of interest.
dated today by this committee.
Sure.
Does that work?
I believe so. It's
Why
in the
not?
record because it's been read, so that will be.
As read into the record. Thank you. Very good. That's why you get the big bucks.
Are you going to make that motion?
Yes, made my B.
Okay. Are
Did you get it, Michelle?
I'm gonna, yeah.
Sure.
Can you read it
All
back?
right.
Second?
All right. All those in favor?
Needs to be roll call.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Oops, Ashley second, yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. Quinty,
Uh,
Mrs. Beatrice.
Aye.
Mr. Rupert.
Aye. All right. I believe we've got some communications updates.
We sure do. Thursday, March 6th, the Page Hilltop PTO meeting, 6:30 PM at Page Hilltop. On Tuesday, March 11th, the ASPTO meeting, 7 PM at Laura White. Also Tuesday, March 11th, the middle school band fundraiser from 11:30 to 8 at Aviva Trattoria in Westford. 10% of sales are going to be donated to the middle school band. Wednesday, March 12th, grade 8 students are touring the high school, 11:30 to 1:30. Wednesday, March 12th, the ASF meeting, 7 PM at the high school. On Friday, March 14th, no school for professional development. Wednesday, March 19th, school committee meeting, 6:30 PM at the middle school library. Thursday, March 20th, 90-minute early release for grades preschool through 12, a late start for preschool, professional development for teachers, lunch will be served. Dismissal times are the high school 12:55, middle school 12:45, Laura White, Page Hilltop 1:45. Monday, March 24th, report cards are issued for grades preschool through 8. Wednesday, March 26th, the CPAC meeting, 6:30 PM at the middle school library. Thursday, March 27th, and Friday, March 28th, 2-hour early release for grades preschool through 5 for conferences. Lunch will be served. Dismissal time is 1:15.
All right. And with that,
I will talk.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I didn't anticipate this, but I was here last night for the robotics team were doing their, they needed some judges. They're getting ready for their competition, so I volunteered to talk. So during the course of the session, did a great job on presentation of their programs and where they're headed and all their initiatives and involvement. They did a terrific job. But one thing that came up there that I find is a problem is that one of the questions I asked is how do they integrate this into the rest of the activities they have to do for their school day and athletics and all the rest of that. And like in anything, you know, there's only so many things you can be in and you have to mix back and forth. There were a couple of collisions between robotics and drama and band that before weren't a problem, and I think it's just negotiation things. Like you had to face last year where they had the plays on the same day, right? That kind of, those things can just handle by just better communication, and that sort of resolved itself. But one of the main presenters was very disappointed because you find out a lot of the kids that are in STEM are also musicians, and they're on college tracks for engineering and math and all that sort of stuff. And they have members on their robotics team that have to quit band because the only time they can take AP calculus is during band. So we have, I think, scheduled to work. I don't think there's any situation where I mean, everything is kind of fun here, but I mean, band people really look forward to band. And I hate to tell anybody that you can't do band. When I went to school, they had, B block was home ec, wood shop band, you know, whatever, pick, but nobody messed with that. That's just the way it rolled. But we have to take a look. I know we've done some things with the way we schedule, but we have to take a look at that so we can't run into that situation.
Yeah.
Those are those are our highest flyers, a lot of them, and they're getting shut out on the stuff that they really love to do. You know, and it has nothing to do with the fact, and this only came up because I would happen to be talking to robotics. It doesn't, you know, robotics doesn't affect band, but all those kids, they're like, you know, and they're telling me, said, I've been in band from Miss Fletcher through 6th grade, and I started this, and I came all the way to here, and now I can't be in the spring college. I can't be in the band anymore because it's the only time, and they feel they have to take that AP calculus course. So that will be some work for next year to look at, to figure out how can we not do that? Because I don't want to tell any kid that you can't be in the band anymore after you've been committed for that much time. So it'll be summer work for you guys to try to sort out and figure out some way around it with Spencer.
It's the challenge of a small school schedule.
Right,
Yeah.
right. We're up for the challenge. Okay, I'm good.
Joyce.
Community Reading Day was awesome. And if anybody gets a chance, go over to Page Hilltop Cafeteria at the serving line and look what they did with a very long time, boring, blank wall. They painted it like a chalkboard, and the art teacher has decorated it. They have a place for birthdays. They have a place for what's on the menu today, and the whole project cost $100. It is absolutely astounding. She's shaking it.
It looks great.
And so,
She did a great job.
we have all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff happening, and this is just totally great for the kids to see and to interact with. I think it helps everything in that whole food process. And I want to congratulate our Joe, last name, help me.
Ricci.
Huh?
Ricci.
Ricci, thank you. And so he was so proud of that.
He's doing a great job.
That he totally explained it to me. You really, it takes a minute, go down there to the cafeteria, because that's a good cafeteria anyway, because where the kids eat, it's all windows and stuff, so it's not a bad setting. And it's a positive setting, and this made it boing, that much higher. So I had to mention that.
Looks great.
Do we have a need for executive session?
Not at this time.
All right.
Because we have to hear them. No.
With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I would make a motion to adjourn at 8:10.
I would second that motion.
All right. All those in favor?
All right.
All right.
Aye.
We'll be in bed by now.